In the opulent kingdom of Ilesa, Princess Fatima battles a mysterious affliction that isolates her from her people, pushing her into a forbidden romance with the talented drummer Buba. Just as hope rekindles, a devastating plague strikes, erasing her offensive body odor but casting her into a whirlwind of societal expectations and hidden betrayals. As Fatima and Buba navigate treacherous political intrigues and personal betrayals, they must confront their deepest fears and the shifting sands of their love. Torn between old wounds and new ambitions, their quest for redemption unveils shocking secrets that threaten everything they hold dear. Will their love survive the storm, or will the shadows of the past tear them apart? Princess Fatima of Ilesa, bathed in the golden rays of the afternoon sun, gazed out from the grand window of her palace bedroom. Below, the village bustled with excitement as the summer feast day unfolded, a vivid tapestry of color, music, and dance. Her heart ached as she watched young girls twirling in vibrant skirts, their laughter rising like a symphony of freedom she could never join. Despite the beauty and kindness she radiated, a potent, repugnant body odor set her apart, creating an invisible barrier between her and her people. Fatima's heart thudded with a mix of longing and despair. The villagers had long since turned their backs on her, retreating behind closed doors and drawn curtains whenever she ventured outside. The very air she breathed seemed tainted by the whisper offensive body odor, carried like an unwelcome shadow. Children were pulled away from their play, and even her closest friends had distanced themselves, their faces contorting in disgust whenever she approached. One fateful evening, as Fatima brooded alone in her tower room, a sudden gust of wind swept through the open shutters, bringing with it an unsettlingly sweet and familiar fragrance, something she had not smelled in years. It was not her own scent but something almost enchanting. Curiosity piqued, she ventured down the winding staircase, her heart pounding with a forbidden hope. She followed the scent, leading her past the palace gardens and into the dimly lit corridors that seemed to hum with a secret. As she approached a secluded alcove, she stumbled upon an ornate, ancient chest partially hidden behind a tapestry. The scent grew stronger, more intoxicating. Her trembling hands pried open the chest, revealing a collection of old scrolls and a mysterious vial of golden liquid. The scroll spoke of an ancient remedy and a forgotten prophecy about a princess who would break free from her isolation through a transformative elixir. Fatima's heart raced as she realized that this elixir might be the key to changing her fate. However, the prophecy warned that such a transformation would come with a great cost, binding her to a destiny entwined with darkness and uncertainty. Driven by a desperate hope, Fatima clutched the vial, ready to confront the unknown and unravel the secrets that could either free her or plunge her deeper into isolation. As the full moon rose high above Ilesa, the village was alight with the vibrant hues of the Harvest Moon Festival. Lanterns swayed from every tree, casting a warm glow over the bustling marketplace where villagers danced, laughed, and celebrated the bounty of the season. Princess Fatima, cloaked in a simple, homespun dress and a modest hood, watched from the palace gates with a heart full of yearning. The festival was her chance, perhaps her only chance, to experience the joy she had been barred from for so long. Summoning her courage, Fatima slipped through the side gates, her breath coming in soft, anxious bursts. Her heart raced as she joined the throng of revelers, her unaccustomed simplicity blending her into the crowd. For a brief, fleeting moment, she felt the intoxicating rush of freedom. She twirled among the villagers, her movements light and unburdened, her presence unremarked upon in the initial flurry of the festival's excitement. But as the night deepened, an ill-fated breeze carried her familiar, offensive body odor through the revelry. The joyous laughter abruptly turned to whispers and wrinkled noses. The dance floor, once lively with energy, stilled as a ripple of disgust spread among the crowd. Fatima felt a sinking dread as the eyes of the villagers, now filled with shock and revulsion, fixed upon her. In a panic, she tried to blend back into the crowd, but her presence was now the center of unwanted attention. A group of villagers, their faces twisted in discomfort, began to openly mock her. Their laughter, sharp and cruel, cut through the night like a blade. Fatima's cheeks burned with humiliation as she was pushed and shoved away. She stumbled towards the edge of the festival, her heart breaking with every step. Her disguise, once a beacon of hope, now felt like a shroud of shame. Her eyes welled with tears as she fled into the darkness, finding solace only in the quiet isolation of the palace gardens. There, amidst the shadows, Fatima collapsed onto the cold earth, her sobs mingling with the distant echoes of the festival. The vibrant celebration she had longed to be part of was now a painful reminder of the gulf between her and the world she could never truly be a part of. Crushed by her public humiliation, Princess Fatima fled the Harvest Moon Festival and found refuge behind a cluster of dense, concealing bushes at the edge of the village. Her sobs quieted into ragged breaths as she huddled in the darkness, the vibrant festival lights casting faint, shifting patterns on the ground. The once welcome sounds of celebration now seemed like a cruel mockery, amplifying her sense of isolation. Just as Fatima began to lose herself in despair, a rhythmic, soothing beat penetrated the night's oppressive silence. It was a steady, uplifting drumming, each thud resonating with an almost hypnotic cadence. The sound grew closer, and Fatima, curious despite her sorrow, cautiously peered through the leaves. Her heart skipped a beat when she saw a young man from a neighboring village, Buba, approaching with a hand drum slung over his shoulder. His face, illuminated by the lanterns of the festival still flickering in the distance, was set in a gentle expression of concentration. Buba's drumming filled the night with an infectious energy, and as he drew nearer, he seemed to notice Fatima's presence. He stopped abruptly, his gaze softening as he spotted her hidden in the shadows. With a warm, genuine smile, he began a new, slower rhythm, one that seemed to beckon her out of her hiding place. "Why did you stop dancing?" Buba's voice was kind, carrying a note of genuine curiosity. "You looked so full of joy before. I thought I'd join you." Fatima, stunned by his unexpected approach, hesitated before emerging from the bushes. The scent of the festival still clung to her, but she felt an odd comfort in his presence. Buba, undeterred by the lingering odor, looked at her with eyes full of admiration. I'm sorry," Fatima stammered, feeling exposed and vulnerable. "I didn't mean to disrupt the festival. Buba shook his head, cutting her off gently. "You were dancing beautifully. Sometimes, people are too quick to judge. You should keep dancing, keep moving to the rhythm of your heart." His words, though simple, cut through Fatima's despair. For the first time, someone saw beyond her affliction. Buba's drumming grew livelier, his eyes twinkling with encouragement. He offered her a place beside him, inviting her to join in the rhythm of his drum. As Fatima tentatively started to move to the beat, Her movements became fluid and expressive, the music weaving through her as if it was lifting the weight of her sorrow. The drumming and their shared moments sparked a flicker of hope in Fatima's heart. Buba's kindness was a balm to her wounded spirit, igniting a hesitant but growing trust. As the night deepened, their connection deepened too, binding them together in a shared dance that hinted at the possibility of something more profound, something that could change the course of her life. As the days slipped by, Princess Fatima and Buba's secret meetings became the highlights of her solitary existence. Beneath the canopy of an ancient oak tree at the village's edge, they would gather, their conversation a dance of laughter and shared stories. Buba's tales of life beyond the palace walls were vivid and thrilling, contrasting starkly with Fatima's confined world. Each meeting, Fatima arrived with a blend of anticipation and apprehension, her heart racing at the thought of their clandestine encounters. Their secret garden, cloaked in shadows and the distant murmur of village life, was a sanctuary where Fatima could shed her royal mask and be herself. Buba's presence was a balm to her wounded spirit. The odor that once tormented her became a distant concern in his company, overshadowed by their growing bond. Yet, the joy of these moments was tinged with a gnawing anxiety. What if their friendship was discovered? What if the village found out? One evening, as they shared a quiet laugh, Fatima noticed a shadow flickering in the distance. Her heart lurched with fear. "Someone's coming," she whispered, her eyes wide with panic. Buba quickly grabbed her hand, pulling her behind a nearby grove of trees. They held their breath, listening intently as the shadow grew clearer, a pair of villagers strolling with lanterns, their voices drifting through the night. As the danger passed, Fatima felt a mix of relief and dread. The risk of discovery added a thrilling edge to their secret meetings but also deepened her fears. Their friendship, so precious and fragile, was a beacon of light in her dark world, yet she couldn't shake the anxiety about what might come if their connection was exposed. The secret garden where Fatima and Buba met had become their refuge, but also a crucible of emotions. Each meeting filled Fatima with a bittersweet mixture of joy and dread. Buba's laughter and the warmth of his presence were intoxicating, yet the looming reality of their social disparity weighed heavily on her heart. She was the princess, bound by duty and tradition, while he was a common drummer from a neighboring village. The gulf between their worlds seemed insurmountable. One crisp evening, as the moonlight filtered through the leaves, Buba looked at Fatima with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "You seem troubled, Fatima," he said softly, his fingers gently brushing hers. Fatima's eyes flickered with a mix of passion and fear. "Buba, you must understand. This, what we have, is dangerous. If anyone discovers us..." Her voice trailed off, choked by the weight of her unspoken fears. Buba's face was a mask of concern. "I know the risks," he replied, his gaze unwavering. "But love isn't something we can control. It's like the rhythm of the drum, it pulses through us, undeniable." Fatima's heart ached with conflicting emotions. She imagined the scandal and outrage that would erupt if their secret was exposed. The court's whispers, her father's disappointment, the kingdom's scorn, these fears haunted her dreams. She struggled with the thought of living a life that valued status over genuine love. Yet, every stolen glance, every tender touch from Buba was a promise of something pure and real, something she had never thought possible. In the quiet sanctuary of their meetings, Fatima grappled with the choice between her duty and her heart. The enchantment of their bond clashed with the relentless pressure of societal expectations, creating a tumultuous storm within her soul. The tranquility of Ilesa was shattered when the plague arrived like a silent storm, its dark clouds seizing the village in a grip of terror. It began with whispers of fever and blisters, then escalated into violent fits and death. Fatima watched in horror as the once vibrant streets of her kingdom were consumed by an eerie silence. Panic-stricken villagers barricaded their homes, and the kingdom's borders were sealed tighter than ever before, trapping Fatima within the palace walls. Her once cherished garden now felt like a gilded cage. The once inviting fragrance of blooming flowers was replaced by the acrid scent of fear and despair. Each day brought news of the plague's advance, and the royal palace became a haven for quarantine, a prison where Fatima's mind was her only tormentor. With every knock on the door or shuffling of the palace guards, she was seized by a paralyzing dread. Her thoughts were consumed by Buba. Did he have enough food? Was he safe from the disease that was ravaging the land? The once comforting rhythm of his drum, which had been the heartbeat of her secret refuge, was now a haunting reminder of their separation. Each night, Fatima lay awake, her mind a maelstrom of fear and longing. The walls of her bedroom seemed to close in on her, suffocating her with the weight of her worries. In her dreams, she was tormented by visions of Buba, sick and alone, his vibrant spirit dimmed by the plague. The walls of the palace, meant to protect her, became a cruel reminder of the love she was forced to leave behind. Fatima's heart ached with every passing day, the promise of their future together slipping further away into the abyss of uncertainty. The plague, a shadowy specter, had been creeping through Ilesa, and now it had claimed its most reluctant victim, Princess Fatima. It began with a dull ache that soon blossomed into a raging fever, leaving her bedridden and weak. Her skin, once fair and radiant, was marred by the unmistakable blisters of the plague. The palace, once a sanctuary, now echoed with the despair of its inhabitants. Fatima's suffering was a scene of unrelenting dread. The royal doctors, their faces etched with worry, scoured their books and concocted remedies, but their efforts were in vain. The traditional herbs, the mystical potions, each attempt to halt the disease was met with bitter disappointment. Her parents, the king and queen, were driven to the brink of madness by their daughter's relentless decline. They paced the halls of the palace, their eyes hollow with desperation, and their hearts heavy with fear. The fever seized Fatima with increasing ferocity, making each night an ordeal of burning heat and haunting dreams. She writhed in her bed, her sheets soaked through, as shadows danced on the walls, mocking her with their relentless flicker. In her delirium, she saw glimpses of Buba, his face a ghostly figure in her fevered dreams. He was reaching out to her, but the distance between them seemed insurmountable. In a final, desperate measure, the queen remembered an obscure folk remedy, a vile concoction of bitter roots and animal blood, brewed by an old village healer years before. It was a potion that even the most superstitious of court physicians avoided. As the noxious liquid was spooned into Fatima's mouth, her parents watched with tears streaming down their faces, their hope as fragile as the princess's rapidly failing body. The remedy, though revolting, became their last beacon of hope, a glimmer in the encroaching darkness of their despair. The palace was a mausoleum of fear and desperation, each shadow magnifying the terror gripping its inhabitants. The king and queen, their faces etched with helplessness, hovered around Fatima's sickbed, their hearts breaking as they watched their daughter's condition deteriorate. The room was filled with an oppressive silence, punctuated only by the occasional whimper of the princess and the soft rustling of medical scrolls. Queen Oliphant's gaze fell upon a dusty, forgotten tome in the corner of the chamber, a relic from her own youth. The passage described an ancient remedy, a tonic brewed from the darkest corners of folklore, made from bitter roots and aged animal blood. It was a potion of last resort, shunned by even the most superstitious of healers for its nauseating concoction and grim history. Desperate to save her daughter, Oliphant decided to take a risk, her resolve hardening as she saw the life slipping from Fatima's frail body. The preparation of the tonic was a grotesque ritual in itself. The blood, once warm, now congealed and foul, mingled with the roots that emitted an acrid stench. When the potion was finally ready, it looked like a sinister brew of the nightmarish. Fatima's first sip was a battle of will. Her face contorted in disgust as the liquid slid down her throat, the vile taste lingering like a poison. But then, a miracle unfolded. The very next day, her fever began to subside. Her breathing steadied, and her pallor slowly brightened. Her parents watched in stunned silence as their daughter's condition began to turn, a fragile ember of hope ignited in the dark abyss of their despair. Yet, even as the tonic seemed to pull Fatima from the brink of death, whispers of its dark origins and potential side effects hovered in the corners of their minds, a constant reminder of the thin line between salvation and doom.